We are live.
Live.
All right. What's going on, B? How you doing today, man?
All right. Thursday.
And we'd like to welcome you guys to the Buy the Block podcast, where we are here teaching you how to buy it, rent it, and profit. We've got best-selling author Bryan Chavis in the house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man, how you doing this week?
Man, blessed. You know, the holiday rush.
Yep.
You know, we're coming into the fourth quarter of the holiday season. You know, out there trying to get the gifts and, you know, get everything organized, doing a little bit of toy drive. And
Absolutely.
And, you know, getting the kids squared away, getting ready for a little vacation to Walt Disney World ourselves. So we'll be doing a little podcast live from the planet of Batu.
Exactly.
But next week, you and I will be looking for multifamily investments on the planet of Batu. Probably the first investors on the planet.
Intergalactic investors.
Intergalactic. We got to add that to our resumes.
Absolutely.
Intergalactic real estate investors looking for multifamily on the planet of Batu. So we're so excited to be live streaming from Walt Disney World, Star Wars Land next week. So yeah, man, we're excited about that.
Absolutely. We're working on all our lingo and everything. Man.
Yeah, man. We had to watch the YouTube videos and figure out how to navigate, go and find the lifesavers and work on our, you know, absolutely how to order food and the whole nine. This gonna be interesting.
Exactly, man. Well, yeah, I saw you got 2 baskets full of toys for the kids and everything, man. So we really appreciate you giving back and helping out, man. And definitely the season. So
it is. You know, we try not to advertise it. You know, me personally, I won't, you know, jump on there and advertise that kind of stuff too much myself personally. I know you say it's good for the brand, and that, you know, and I agree. You know, but yeah, man, you know, I won't do too much in the open with it, but I'm trying to make sure that you know, we're always giving back. But you know, for me, I believe, my personal belief is, you know, at the end of the day, God knows what I'm doing. He sees how I operate. And, you know, at the end of the day, when I wake up and when I lay my head in bed, that's kind of who I answer to.
Right.
So, you know, he sees me doing the work and putting the work in. So, that's all the profile or high profile. That's all, you know,
that's right.
He's watching and blesses what I'm doing, man. Then, really that's what it's about.
Exactly. I love it, man. Well, you know, this week we're going to talk about, finding your target area as part of getting a good deal, and you created it's a step-by-step process for evaluating processes. Yes.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that.
Right.
The
multifamily industry. So yeah, there's a step-by-step process for evaluating properties.
I did coin the term CIOTA.
There you go.
I'll give you that.
Exactly. So a step-by-step process for evaluating property and determining if it's a good investment for you. Correct. And you've called it the CIOTA process.
Correct.
And this is actually in your book. This is on page 43 within Buy It, Rent It, Profit. And I'd love for you to break that down for the listeners. You know, what is the CIOTA process? Why is it important to deploy that when you're looking for multifamily investments?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And obviously that's, you know, where a lot of the investment trainings and philosophies, you know, kind of stem around that process. And I am fortunate and blessed to have come through the multifamily industry.
Yeah.
I'll say that, when actually, you know, boots on the ground, and to really see these systems, you know, stress test that we're about to talk about. So, there is a methodology behind understanding how to hit certain markets and then when to hit certain markets.
Okay.
Timing is everything. You heard that a million times before, but it's so true in real estate investing in multifamily. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
Because you can be in a market too early, and you can be in a market too late, and that can make all the difference. And so, understanding how to predict and understanding how to forecast, it weighs heavy on the project itself and its ability to get from point A to point B. So, you really have to, that's why we call it strategic, or I coined it strategic evaluation of a target area in Ciota, because everything was strategic. I always felt like when I was going through the multifamily industry and I was going through this training and I was having to provide this information for my superiors, I always felt it was military. I've never been in the military, but I was like, wow, this information that they're gathering, trying to, really dig into who the prospect tenant's demographic is. I mean, it just was very military-like on how they narrowed in on or honed in on a certain market area and knew more about that area than the people who lived in that area. And then, then they made their decisions based upon that research, and allowing the research to make the decisions and not actual individuals' personal preferences make those decisions. So yeah, it was very interesting, and excited to kind of dive into that.
Absolutely, and I like you said in the book, it said once you've identified exactly what you're looking for, you can find it a lot faster. And so when you're talking about going up against institutional investors and all these other people looking at deals, once you understand how to strategically target your area, you're going to be able to go after these deals a lot quicker and find something that fits you.
Yeah, and Carlos, one of our clients in our coaching program, talked about it today when he was like, hey, should I go after Class C properties? It's like, yeah, you're able to identify. For me, I was like, you can drop me off anywhere and I'll find an opportunity, because I'm, a lot of people shy away from certain markets and opportunities because of the how management intensive some of the projects could be.
Right.
And then those who don't shy away from it jump in, but really don't understand what they're getting into on the management side. And, obviously they lose sight in the ability to execute on the management plan.
Right.
And so therefore, they find themselves in trouble, or underperforming. So, when you're doing this right, you know how to evaluate the market, and then you have the knowledge and the expertise to execute on what you found.
Right.
It really takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to break down. I'm going to go into I'm going to list the different categories within the Ciota analysis process. And now that, since we've got you here, the author of the book, I'm going to have you break down, elaborate on all these. So within the Ciota process, we've got building permits, employment, average household size, demographics, psychographics, mortgage interest rates, rental market rates, and occupancy rates. So I'd like to, through this podcast, break down each one of those individually and hear, in your opinion, why these are all part of the strategic evaluation. And let's start with building permits. Tell me more about, why building permits are important to look at, and how does that play a factor into...
So when you're looking at areas, and right now most people are probably looking through, especially during the holiday season where everyone's taking a break, a lot of guys are underwriting deals and looking at multiple projects. And you're looking at the deal, and everyone, I think I'm going to maybe possibly jump on a webinar and look at someone pitch a deal later this afternoon. But everyone talks about the deal. I don't really give a damn about the deal.
Right.
I want to know about the demographics and psychographics of the area. I'm more interested in not actually the deal itself, the building itself, the brick and mortar. I'm more interested about who's going to rent, what that demographic profile looks like, what the economic stability of the location of the area. So of course, the building permit activity, all of these Ciota segments, KPIs, key, the heck does that stand? What is it?
Key performance indicators.
There you go. Yep. Key performance indicators. All of these things are important, but building permits in particular. So when I'm looking at a deal or a deal is pitched to me, I really want to know and start evaluating the building permit activity in the area to be able to kind of get an idea of a crystal ball of what's being developed.
Right.
And so when I can see what's being developed, I can kind of understand the mindset of those who put a lot of time and research into a particular area. So if I see a super Walmart coming in, super Target, I see certain developments like that, or certain retailers coming into the market building. I have an understanding, or if they're already there, I have an understanding of the demographic and psychographic profile. It begins to paint a picture, of what the demographic and psychographic profile of that particular neighborhood, moderate income, middle income. I'm beginning to, it helps with starting to paint a picture, and then it also helps with forecasting. We're looking at building permit activity, not building permits being pulled to allow you to do certain work, but building permit activity. showing you what's to come. So are they building a super Walmart? Are they building office development? Are they building some new Class A multifamily? So, looking at the building permit activity and scrutinizing the building permit activity is going to give you an idea of, where we're forecasting, because you have to skate to where the puck is going.
Okay.
So, that's how you get rich in any business. You want to skate to where the puck is going. You don't want to necessarily be where the puck is at right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't make money, betting and gambling on, and I say betting and gambling, that's not a good term. Betting or hedging your bets or forecasting on current market conditions. You got to skate to where you think the puck is going to be. And that's how you get there first, is how you actually, how you make money.
Absolutely. I love it, man. So building permits is one of the keys to, or one of the parts of the CIOTA process. So employment, why is employment important as far as evaluating the target area?
Yeah, because employment, really, I'm honing in on employment to really understand the demographic and psychographic profile of the prospect tenant. People hear me say this a lot. Buildings don't pay rent, people pay rent.
Got it.
So I'm more interested in the demographic profile. Again, you'll see, not us, but you'll see people pitching.
Right.
When you're doing your Chavis Capital, when we present a deck, we're talking more about the economics and the prospect tenant. Then we back in to why we feel this particular property works for that particular profile tenant.
Right.
Talking about the building, the investor, the building is not paying the investor back their returns.
Right.
The tenant is.
Right.
So, but you really don't look at it that way unless you've actually been in the business for a while and you actually have managed boots on the ground and you actually are been trained this way. So just really understanding that that's the most important thing, is looking at and the best way for me to identify the profile of the prospect tenant is looking at where he or she is employed.
Right. Okay.
Because then I can get an idea about income.
Right.
And then I can start building income profiles. And then when I can get an idea about income, then I can forecast rents. And when you can forecast rents, then you can properly forecast value.
Okay.
Because net operating income, the cap rate, NOI divided by the value of the property. Cash on cash return, before tax cash flow, the NOI is in every formula, whether it be cash on cash return, cap rate, debt coverage ratios, all the formulas that are used to evaluate the value of an investment property have net operating income in it. So what makes up 99.9% of net operating income? Rent. Who pays rent? People.
Absolutely.
So how are you really understanding value if you really don't understand anything about the people, the demographic profile? Is it making sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
So it's like, how can you tell me about value? And better yet, how can you forecast value if you really don't understand? Because certain economic changes affect certain demographic profiles differently.
Right.
So what changes in the economy, interest rates, unemployment, all the buzzwords, tariffs, what affects the overall economy doesn't necessarily affect each and every demographic profile differently. So different tax brackets are affected differently.
Right.
According to changes in the economy. So to do a broad brush stroke and just talk about, in general, the economy means absolutely nothing to a sophisticated investor. And, you have to drill down to the root, which is, how does this change in the economy affect my particular demographic or my particular prospect tenant?
Right.
And how you begin to understand it is evaluating the employment.
All right. So this is great. So we got employment, we got building permits. Then you listed an average household size as part of the CIOTA process. Why is that important to, evaluating a strategic area?
Because then it begins to paint a picture of what type of building am I looking for.
Okay.
So you can find a great investment, but if it has the wrong unit mix, the unit mix is the ratio between ones and twos and threes and fours. The unit mix, if it's the wrong unit mix, so if I have a bunch of, you heard me say this a lot.
Right.
Take Park Plaza and move it anywhere 7 miles in any direction.
Right.
Any direction. And I wouldn't have done the deal.
Right.
If it wasn't sitting in downtown St. Pete, I wouldn't have done it, because it's all studio apartments. Doesn't make sense.
Right.
make sense in that particular downtown St. Pete, but and even there, it has limitations that are now built in that you can do nothing about because of the unit mix.
Right.
So understanding that a lot of this has to be about the right type of unit mix for the demographic. But again, if you don't know anything about the demographic profile, you're just buying properties because you feel like it's below market, or the pro forma cap rate looks great, and they say the cash on cash return is this, which we all know,
Right.
is you got a discount. That to a certain extent, until you get in there and run you do your due diligence yourself. But at the end of the day, it's for me, it's like,
No, that makes sense.
You got the right unit mix has to be for
Right.
the demographic profile of the neighborhood. So a bunch of efficiencies is not going to work where the average family size is 4.7.
Right.
Okay, we just left a place, Starbucks, we got our coffee over by USF. Average family size by USF is 3.7. A bunch of studios units are not going to work in certain areas. You know what I mean? So you just have to understand, how to match the particular product with the demographic profile. So that's why unit mix, average household size is very important to understand.
Excellent. And we talked about that last week. A story about Anthony and money was burning a hole in his pocket. He got really hasty and found himself, near tears when he was speaking to you because he was about to go in foreclosure on his rental investment.
Because he thought he bought a great apartment building under market value.
Correct.
There's a reason why it was under market value.
Right.
He's like, the occupancy was so low because I remember this conversation was almost 20 years ago, 20 plus years.
Yep.
I remember like it was yesterday. It was at a REIT meeting.
Yep.
And he got himself involved with it, but he was convinced by the seller. The reason why the occupancy right now was so bad, it was because it was poor management. And often that's the case.
Right.
But in this particular case, it wasn't poor management. It was because, it was the wrong building unit mix for that particular demographic. So no one was interested in a bunch of studio apartments where the average family size was 4.5 or 3.7 or something like that. So, they're looking for 2s and 3s.
Right. And we got to be really careful, with multifamily, not necessarily single family homes where you can, make a mistake and start over. And you can in multifamily, I would imagine, but, we're dealing with bigger money, and a lot more risk.
These risks are, with the larger institutional stuff, you can afford to make risks or have some risk there. And, because of sheer economies of scale, bail a lot of investors out. But when you're dealing with smaller 20, 30, 40 unit buildings, you have to be, you have to operate like an institutional grade investor.
Right.
And you have to play chess and not checkers.
Exactly.
When you play checkers in this industry, this is when this is when you lose.
Yep.
This is when you lose. You hear these sad stories of everyone losing, all their money and having to start over from scratch. It's because you can often trace it back to their inability to operate.
Absolutely. Well, let's keep moving down this list, man, because this is some valuable information. So we've talked about building permits, employment, average household size, and then there's demographics. And so why is this part important why is this a piece of the puzzle for strategic evaluations?
Yeah, it's well, as I've said, probably, 20 times now, it's the most important piece of everything. Understanding who your prospect tenant is the most important part of all of this. And again, it's the most overlooked.
Right.
Just go online. I employ everyone listening, watching. Just go online and look at people advertising deals. Ask yourself, out of all the deals you see advertised, how many people are talking about the prospect tenant and how many people are actually talking about the building and the deal? Oh, this is a great deal. This is a great, then cap rate,
right?
Projected cash on cash return, great area. That's what they say, great area. But how many people are really drilling down to the demographic side? Who are the individuals, the prospect tenants? Because that tells me everything about the value of that asset, where the rents are set, where I feel the pro forma could be moved, as far as pro forma rents are concerned, which all triggers value. So, at the end of the day, it's the demographics will tell me who they are in that particular city. And again, how many people are telling you, this is who you're renting to?
Right, exactly.
They're talking about the building, but the building doesn't write you a check every month and pay rent.
Yep. And I see that in a lot of other real estate books as well. It's just talking about the building.
That's it.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar. And brick and mortar's never paid rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it might in some way, shape, or form, in some kind of form of real estate, but not this whole buy and rent and profit.
Yeah.
Not this renting. The tenant pays the rent. So for me, I want to know more about the tenant than I do the actual building. That if that's where my income is coming from, wouldn't you think that that's important?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to do a quick plug here, man, because this book is just chock full of information. And if you guys don't own it, make sure you go pick it up on Amazon, or you can go to your local bookstore. Buy it, rent it, profit. Not only do you get the book, but it's full of all the forms, the strategic evaluation forms. There's a whole appendix in the back end.
Since you plugged, I'm gonna jump in here with a plug. This is probably over $25,000 of what you would pay an attorney.
It's ridiculous.
Paul, Adam, our friends at our attorneys, Paul and Adam, please chime in and let them know if you had to go in and write and create leases, rules and regulations, and letters of intent, and this all the forms in here. If you had to hire an attorney to do this, how much would you pay in a retainer? This is a $17 book, if that.
Right.
And I've given you pretty much due diligence checklist, anything you can think of that impacts buying an apartment building or rental property.
Exactly.
It's in there.
And I'm going to say, go to bryanchavis.com to subscribe and hear more about what we're up to, but also bryanchavis.com/CIOTA. You're going to be able to download the checklist, and we're going to get back into this in a moment. So we've got building permits, employment, average household size, and demographics. There's another thing you've got here, which is called psychographics. Mm-hmm. And so what is psychographics?
My wife says doesn't exist.
but this is a strategic part.
My wife says she's a psychologist. She's like, I don't think that's a word.
Hey, well,
it's a word.
I'm gonna use it if it's gonna help you make money, and
it's a word. I mean, that's how I was trained.
Absolutely.
Psychographics. So we said demographics tells you the who.
Yes.
Psychographics tells you the why.
Right.
Demographics tells you the who. Psychographics tells you the why. Why do the tenants do certain things? Why do they choose a certain type of look or feel versus another? And that's really, again, drilling down to understanding who your prospect tenant is. Now I understand their psychographics. So basically, I'm setting the stage.
Right.
I'm anticipating their needs in advance. So when they walk into a rental unit, I've already anticipated what they want to see.
Right.
Ceiling fans, fixtures, lighting fixtures, faucets, sink, all of that I've anticipated. How? Because I did my homework by doing the market survey, going to visit the Class A properties, looking at the amenities that they put in, because they've done extensive studies on the demographic profiles as well, because I used to have to do the same thing in the multifamily industry. And so all I'm doing is understanding who my prospect tenant is, and then setting the stage, anticipating their needs in advance. And when you can do that, then that's how you lease units quickly.
Love it.
At the market rent that you're looking to get.
That's perfect. Perfect. So we've got psychographics, demographics, average household size, employment, building permits. There's still more on this list. So we've got mortgage interest rates. Why are we looking at mortgage interest rates in evaluating properties?
Understanding like rates, and obviously they're extremely low right now. Mm-hmm. And this is a good indicator, but it used to be a really solid one, more so than what it is today. And the reason why I say it used to be more so than it is today, because now, back then renting was taboo. So you looked at the interest rates and you felt like people would look for home ownership and want to move into home ownership because the rates were low. Mm-hmm. And so you look at rates to kind of determine and to look at the overall, where you can think trending, the overall profile of your demographic is what decisions they're going to make in the near future. With interest rates being low, they may have the conversation at the dinner table. Maybe we should buy versus rent. Right. Okay. That's going to be a conversation. So you're trying to anticipate that, which means you're anticipating vacancy rates. Okay. But in today's market, where it used to be taboo to rent, it's more favorable to rent.
Correct.
You have all this going on, the shared economy. You have this Airbnb, you have this Uber, all this effect that millennials have. And now it's affecting not only millennials, but various other generations to where people are looking at renting like, no, I like the lifestyle that renting offers because it's like a shared economy. It's,
right.
You're borrowing it. You don't necessarily have to buy it. So if you want to move, you can move. The amenities that these rental properties now offer, gyms, Wi-Fi, coffee shops inside the lobby, just the ecosystem that they're providing. Movie theaters or movie night and media centers,
right.
and high 5G Wi-Fi with business centers.
Right.
And I can go on juicing stations, and we can go on and on. Yoga classes, business classes. Oh, who the hell wants to own nowadays? When you have when you have an opportunity to have access to these sorts of amenities, so
right.
it's much more fashionable to rent now, and I don't really see that changing. So interest rates. Looking at the interest rates played a major part 15 years ago. It still plays a role because you do still have to factor that in, that people are probably going to move towards home ownership with the rates being the way they are. But you also have to understand it's less than what it used to be because of just, the communities that are being developed nowadays. It's just kind of hard to compete with having, and we felt this when we were in Austin, Texas.
Right.
Where was the place we were at?
The Domain.
The Domain. It's just, how do you compete with something like that?
It's like living in a shopping mall.
It's incredible
insane.
to be able to offer that, and then just have that ability in 7 months or 12 months to be able to, okay, if I want to change, I can change.
Correct.
I'm not nailed down to anything. So that's my thought on that.
Love it. So now we've got mortgage interest rates. We've looked at the psychographics, demographics. We've looked at the household size, employment. We've looked at building permits. We got to keep going. So we've got rental market rates, and you guys can actually evaluate rental market rates at Landlord Academy. We've got some resources there, but I want you to break down, Bryan, why rental market rates are important.
And more so even today.
Yeah.
Because rates change rapidly. Back when I was in the industry, you set a rate and you reevaluated it every week. And you did your market survey. You reevaluated it every week, and you called up, or your area manager, district manager would call down to the property managers, now asset managers, it's what we, as syndicators, we're asset managers, we call down to the property managers, boots on the ground, and say, hey, look, done a market survey, can we push rents X, Y, and Z? You would push rents every week. But now a lot of these properties have software to where, based upon the occupancy rate, the rental rates change on a minute-to-minute, hourly basis, depending on various different factors and equilibriums that are happening at the particular property at the time. So, if leasing agent A and B just leased, 2 units, it would change. The rates would go up because less occupancy, more demand, rates would go up. If it stayed stagnant, it would stay at a certain, rate that they felt like, was wherever they set the bar. Yeah. Then it would move based on how many units they rented out that day. Various other factors of expenses that were accrued by maintenance. So it factors in all this AI, and it's setting the rents on a hourly basis. So rents are changing constantly and rapidly changing. So at the end of the day, even me, when we're advertising, I give a range now on Zillow. I won't necessarily say, hey, look, this is the rent, because if I lease 2 units, that's going to change. I'm going to try to bump it up. So at the end of the day, that's why I kind of give a range with rents these days. But if you're not keeping your finger on the pulse of the market, then how do you really understand how to maximize net operating income? I.e., which is really how you understanding how to maximize value, because net operating income is the lifeline to any investment. Net operating income is the blood to the body. If you bottleneck net operating income, you cut net operating income or clot it, that clot reaches the heart, it sends the property into foreclosure, which is like death to the body. So you got to look at net operating income like the blood of the body of the investment. So you have to do, as an asset manager or property manager, you have to do what is necessary to keep that flow going and to maximize the flow as much as possible, because the health of the investment, the value of the investment is dependent upon the net operating income the subject property generates.
Wow.
You can stop right there, man. I mean, that right there was enough.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, that's definitely was.
25 grand, and I'm just gonna send invoices.
Man, occupancy rates, which is the final piece of the puzzle. We've got all these different parts of the strategic evaluation. Then we're looking at occupancy rates. So why is occupancy rates part of this whole equation?
Yeah, so and it's funny you mentioned that because I just had in our evaluation model, we've got one of the most complex rental evaluation models, and we should probably do something on that so everyone can see it
Absolutely.
here in the near future. But one of the reasons why we haven't yet is because I'm perfecting it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had added to the new model that we will be unveiling in our Certified Rental Investment Specialist certification in a few months, in the first part of 2020, is I had them add a break-even occupancy tab.
Right.
So it shows all of my expenses, right? But it shows the occupancy level from which I have to maintain to be able to pay all the major expenses. Not to make a profit, but to cover all the major expenses, mortgage, maintenance, so on and so forth. It has an occupancy. So your occupancy is really important because if you're not maintaining occupancy, you're not able to pay down expenses or debt. If you're not able to pay down debt, we all know what happens. So again, that it all pushes back to what I was talking about, net operating income. Where do you think net operating income comes from when we determine? It comes from prospect tenants paying rent. Well, if there's no tenants in the building paying rent, then then there's no cash flow. Then there's no blood in the body. And if there's no blood in the body, what happens to the body? It dies.
Yep.
So occupancy is extremely important. So that's why I'm saying too, it's like when you're setting rents and you're focusing on rents and you're talking about pro formas and looking at all these various deals that you're going to be looking at. I mean, you got to get down to the science of it. You really got to really truly understand who that prospect tenant is, because it's all based on whether or not you can achieve. And we talked about this today in the coaching. I think I can get $1,200 in rents at Park Plaza.
Correct.
However, if the property sits for 3, 4, 5 weeks until I get that $1,200, am I really getting $1,200? No, not when you factor in loss to lease. And you're factoring the money that was spent for the upgrades.
Right.
When you're factoring all those things in, you're really not achieving that. So would it be wiser for me to set the rents at a rate that is wise, or maybe $990, just add $1,000
right.
and lease it in 4 days or 7 days versus 2 weeks? Yes, and when you look at the math, the answer is yes. It's quite simple. So just really understanding how to balance occupancy, and make those calls on a day-to-day, weekly basis at your property is really pulling all of the levers that are necessary to determine the overall value of the asset.
Right.
Every decision you make, every hour, every minute, every week, every decision you're making or not making is affecting the value of that asset.
Wow.
But we're not thinking like that.
Wow.
We're not thinking like that, so
yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox.
No, you're good. You're good. So,
I won't preach anymore.
where can we get all this information? As far as learning about the CO process.
Go right to the Bible.
Yep.
Go right to the Bible, man. I mean, I put it all here. There's a reason why this book made it to the U.S. Library of Congress.
Right.
I mean, you just don't get to the U.S. Library of Congress, Nate, from selling people on a bunch of. And I didn't sell you on a dream when I wrote this.
No.
I didn't say you were going to get rich in real estate. I never told you this is the way to your financial freedom. No, I said if that's what you decided to do, this is the playbook from which you need.
Absolutely.
This is the operating system from which you need to start. This is going to identify the work that needs to be done.
Right.
Hence the word work.
Yeah.
This is going to identify the work that needs to be done, then tell the user or reader in this case how to go about performing that work.
Yep.
I ain't never promised you that you were going to, get rich or do. I let other people make those promises. I just simply said if you showed up and you bought a property and you showed up and you bought this book and you executed on these systems, this book will identify the work that needs to be done, tell you how to go about doing it in a consistent manner, and you'll be profitable if you follow those steps. But I never promised you. This book ain't about promise. This book is about education and training and all the years that all the information I was taught in the multifamily industry. It's all in here. And at the end of the day, this is this is level one. Then you jump on coaching calls with us, and you get involved with the multifamily matrix, and and you level up and you educate yourself. And you get around iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
So if you're around other individuals, that are moving in this direction, then obviously by osmosis, by natural default, you're going to be, highly successful individual.
Exactly. And we invite you to get a free download of the SEOTA checklist, which is go to bryanchavis.com/SEOTA. That's SEOTA, bryanchavis.com/SEOTA. Also, we definitely encourage that you join us on our weekly group coaching calls at the Multifamily Matrix. That's bryanchavis.com/matrix, or you can go to multifamilymatrix.com. And if you have found value in this podcast, we'd ask that you, subscribe, please share, and leave a comment. We're continually giving you guys, knowledge and education each week. And also, if you feel like you offer value to investors as well, feel free to sponsor the podcast. We're always looking for value adds that we can, bring to our investors. So if you feel like you'd love to be a part of this, we ask that you just visit our website, bryanchavis.com, reach out to us. We always love people that want to help and pitch in. And special thank you to all of our sponsors who've pitched in to help us bring this to light. So once again, B-Man, I'm thrilled to be here with you, bro. And thank you for all your information, man. And I have to say that this is actually only part one of the SEOTA process.
I know, right? I know.
We're going to be going into another whole section of this next week.
It's
ridiculous.
Work. Yeah, it's work, Nate. It's work. It's work. It's work. And those who are not scared of work,
right. So I mean,
they're going to be ready.
Yeah,
we're going to get them ready in 2020.
Yeah. So I mean, we just had a whole 40-minute conversation, and this is really only part one of evaluating a property. So once again, be careful with the other resource guides out there about just buying a property and fixing it up, because you really could be in over your head. So
yeah, you just gotta, guys, you just have to understand that there is a science to this.
Correct.
There's a level of education and knowledge and skill sets that have to be acquired before one moves into it, and should be acquired before one moves into it. What you have to understand is that real estate is a wonderful industry that's bailed out a lot of people and made a lot of people look smarter than what they really are.
Yep.
Because of appreciation. Sometimes these properties people get in over their head, but because of the property appreciating in value and the asset, real estate has had a remarkable ability to hide a lot of mistakes from operators, or that operators make. And then even more so, as you add more units in the economies of scale, you can hide a lot more mistakes benefiting from the economies of scale. That's why smart, sophisticated investors always look for multifamily units between 150, 200, because they're really looking for scale, because it offers a lot less volatility. So just understanding that is, just because you see success stories or hear success stories, just really got to find out who the operators are and who you're listening to, and making sure that they really understand about everything about operations inside and out, especially when you're learning, because that's where it's won and lost, especially for most of our listeners who are just starting out or may only have 50 to 80 units. And, they have to be well versed in operations. Absolutely.
Well, we invite you guys to join us in 2020 in owning multifamily. And once again, B, thank you so much for being here, brother, man. And I look forward to speaking with you next week.
Absolutely. No, we look forward to hollering at dropping knowledge from the planet of Batu.
Exactly.
Walt Disney World. Here we come.
All right. Talk to you soon, brother.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Blessed.